Take a slow breath in and gently let it drift back out again. Tonight, we are going to travel quietly into the past, not to a famous battle and not to a great invention, but to something much more ordinary, something every human being experiences: sleep. Imagine yourself stepping back 100 years to America in the early 20th century, a world where nights were darker, days were slower, and sleep followed a rhythm that many people today have forgotten. As you settle comfortably, allow yourself to imagine that distant time. Perhaps the year is 1910, or maybe 1920. You live in a small American town, far away from highways, bright city lights, and the constant noise of modern life. The sun has begun its slow journey toward the horizon, and just like everyone around you, your body already understands what comes next. Rest. In those distant times, Americans did not think about sleep the way we do today. There were no smartphones glowing beside the bed, no televisions playing late into the night, no endless scrolling through social media, and no notifications interrupting the silence. For most people, darkness meant something very simple. The day was ending. Imagine yourself there. You stand quietly on a small town street. The evening air feels cool, and a gentle breeze moves softly through the trees. The final rays of sunlight touch the rooftops and church steeples. People begin returning home. Shopkeepers close their doors. Farmers leave their fields. Children finish their games. The entire town slowly prepares for sleep, not because someone reminds them, and not because an alarm tells them to, but because nature itself quietly guides them. Meanwhile, the sky grows darker. The first stars begin to appear, and something remarkable happens. The world becomes quiet. Today, many of us live surrounded by constant sound. Cars move through the streets, machines hum, televisions play, and phones vibrate. But 100 years ago, many Americans experienced something that has become increasingly rare: true silence. Imagine standing outside your home on a summer evening in 1915. You hear crickets singing softly in the grass. A horse shifts quietly inside a nearby stable. Far away, a train whistle echoes across the countryside. Then silence. A deep and peaceful silence. In those distant times, darkness itself shaped human life. Without bright electric lights, people naturally adjusted their schedules according to the sun. When the sun rose, people woke. When the sun disappeared, people rested. This rhythm had guided humanity for thousands of years, and 100 years ago in America, it still remained largely unchanged. Imagine entering a family home on a cool autumn evening. The room glows softly with warm light. Perhaps there is an oil lamp. Perhaps there is a kerosene lantern. If the family is fortunate, there may even be a single electric bulb hanging overhead. But the light remains gentle, soft, and nothing like the bright, artificial light we know today. The family gathers together. Someone reads a newspaper. Someone repairs clothing. Children listen quietly as their parents discuss the events of the day. Nobody rushes, nobody multitasks. The evening unfolds slowly. As the years quietly passed during the early 20th century, scientists had not yet discovered what modern researchers understand today. Artificial light changes the way humans sleep. Bright light signals the brain to remain awake, while darkness encourages rest. And 100 years ago, Americans lived with much more darkness than we do now. Imagine looking outside the window. The town has become dark, not dim, not softly illuminated, but truly dark. Only a few lights remain visible: a lantern hanging on a porch, a lamp glowing inside a distant window, perhaps the faint light of a railway station far away. Above everything stretches an enormous sky filled with stars. Thousands of stars. Far more than most people see today. The Milky Way stretches overhead like a river of light. In those distant times, many Americans ended their evenings simply by looking at the night sky. Imagine yourself doing the same. You sit quietly on a wooden porch. The air feels cool. A rocking chair creaks softly beneath you. The stars move silently overhead. You breathe slowly. You feel calm. You feel peaceful. You feel ready for sleep. And as the night grows deeper, the quiet world of America 100 years ago slowly drifts into darkness. And our gentle journey has only just begun. As the stars slowly appeared above America 100 years ago, something else happened that many people today rarely experience. The pace of life itself began to slow. Not because anyone planned it that way, and not because there were rules about it, but because the world naturally became quieter as darkness arrived. Imagine yourself living in a small American town in the year 1915. The sun has already disappeared beyond the horizon. The last traces of orange light have faded from the sky. Evening has arrived. Inside homes across the country, families gather together after a long day of work. Farmers have returned from their fields. Shopkeepers have closed their stores. Children have finished their chores. The entire community slowly settles into a peaceful rhythm. Unlike today, evenings were not filled with endless entertainment. There were no streaming services to watch, no social media feeds to scroll through, no video games, smartphones, or glowing computer screens. Instead, people spent their evenings in much simpler ways. Imagine yourself entering a family home on a cool autumn evening. The room is illuminated by the soft glow of a kerosene lamp. Shadows dance gently across the walls. A fire crackles quietly inside the fireplace, filling the room with warmth. The family sits together. A father reads the local newspaper. A mother repairs clothing or works on embroidery. Children listen quietly or read from a favorite book. Nobody rushes, nobody multitasks. The evening unfolds slowly, one peaceful moment at a time. In those distant times, people often viewed evening as a transition rather than an extension of the working day. Darkness signaled that it was time to slow down. Bodies naturally responded to the fading light. Eyes grew heavy. Conversations became softer. Imagine looking at the clock hanging on the wall. It is only 8 o'clock in the evening. Yet the room already feels calm and sleepy. Today, many people consider 8 o'clock to be early. But 100 years ago, for many Americans, the day was already nearing its end. Meanwhile, outside the home, the town itself becomes quieter. Imagine stepping onto a wooden porch. The night air feels cool against your face. The streets are nearly empty now. A horse-drawn wagon passes slowly in the distance. Its wheels create a soft sound before fading into silence. Above you, the stars shine brightly. Without electric streetlights illuminating every corner, the night sky appears vast and endless. The Milky Way stretches across the darkness like a river of light. In those distant times, many Americans spent part of their evening simply sitting outdoors. Imagine yourself rocking gently in a wooden chair. The porch creaks softly beneath you. A light breeze moves through the trees. Crickets sing steadily in the fields beyond town. There is nowhere you need to go, nothing you need to do, only the quiet comfort of the evening. As the years quietly passed, researchers would eventually discover something important about human sleep. The human body contains its own internal clock. often called the circadian rhythm. This natural system responds strongly to light and darkness. 100 years ago, Americans lived much closer to this natural rhythm than most people do today. When darkness arrived, the brain slowly began producing hormones that encourage sleep. There were few artificial lights strong enough to interrupt this process. As a result, many people became naturally tired much earlier in the evening. Imagine returning inside the house. The fire burns lower now. The lamp glows softly. Conversations become quieter. One family member yawns. Another begins preparing for bed. The house itself seems to be growing sleepy. Meanwhile, outside, the world remains calm. The wind brushes gently through the trees. A distant train whistle echoes briefly across the countryside. Then silence returns once again. In many American homes 100 years ago, preparing for sleep was itself an important ritual. Candles were extinguished carefully, doors were locked, fires were checked, blankets were arranged, children were tucked into bed. These small routines repeated themselves night after night, creating a sense of comfort and security. Imagine climbing into bed beneath a thick quilt. The room is cool and quiet. No electronic devices glow nearby. No notifications interrupt the silence. Only darkness surrounds you. And in that darkness, your body understands exactly what to do. Rest. As midnight slowly approaches, the town becomes even quieter. Most homes are completely dark now. The roads are empty. The shops remain closed. Even the animals have become still. Above the sleeping town, countless stars continue their silent journey across the sky. And somewhere in the darkness, America of 100 years ago drifts peacefully into another night of sleep. Take a slow breath in, and gently let it drift back out again. As the night grew deeper across America 100 years ago, people experienced something that has become increasingly rare in our modern world. They experienced true darkness. Imagine yourself stepping outside a small American home sometime around the year 1920. The evening has passed quietly. Most families have already gone to bed. The streets are empty, the stores are closed. The windows of nearby houses have grown dark one by one. A cool breeze drifts through the trees, and above you stretches a night sky unlike anything most people experience today. There are no bright city lights, no glowing billboards, no endless rows of street lamps. Instead, darkness covers the land gently and completely. The stars shine brilliantly overhead. Thousands of them, perhaps tens of thousands. The Milky Way stretches across the sky like a pale river of light. In those distant times, many Americans grew up seeing the night sky exactly as human beings had seen it for thousands of years. Imagine standing there quietly. You hear the soft sound of wind moving through the trees. A cricket sings somewhere nearby. Far away, a dog barks once. Then silence returns. Not the silence of an empty room, not the silence of noise-canceling headphones, but the natural silence of a sleeping world. Today, many scientists believe that modern life has changed the way humans experience sleep. Artificial lighting allows us to remain awake long after our bodies naturally wish to rest. Televisions, computers, and smartphones continue stimulating our minds late into the night. But 100 years ago, most Americans experienced very little of this stimulation. When darkness arrived, life naturally slowed. Imagine entering a bedroom in a small American farmhouse. The room is simple. A wooden bed stands against the wall. A handmade quilt rests neatly across the mattress. A small washstand sits near the window. Perhaps a single candle burns nearby. Or perhaps the room is already completely dark. There are no glowing screens, no electronic clocks, no notifications waiting to interrupt the night, only quiet. In those distant times, many people slept longer than they often do today. Historians and sleep researchers suggest that adults frequently slept 9 hours or even more during certain seasons of the year. Winter especially encouraged longer periods of rest. Imagine a cold winter evening in rural America. Snow falls softly outside. The wind brushes gently against the walls of the house. Inside, the fireplace glows warmly. The family has already gone to bed. The entire house feels peaceful, protected, safe. Meanwhile, outside, the world becomes almost completely silent. No cars pass along the roads, no airplanes cross the sky, no distant traffic hums in the background, only the occasional sound of wind and falling snow. In those distant times, sleep itself often unfolded differently. Some historians believe that many people practiced what is sometimes called segmented sleep. Rather than sleeping continuously through the entire night, some individuals naturally woke for a short period during the middle of the night. Imagine yourself waking briefly sometime after midnight. The room remains dark. The fire has nearly burned out. Outside, the stars still shine overhead. You sit quietly for a few moments. Perhaps you drink a small glass of water. Perhaps you simply listen to the silence. There is no anxiety, no pressure to fall asleep immediately, because waking briefly during the night is considered normal. Eventually, you return to bed and slowly drift back into sleep once again. As the years quietly passed, industrialization and electricity gradually began changing these ancient rhythms. Cities became brighter, factories operated longer, work schedules became more rigid, artificial light extended the hours of activity. Little by little, the natural relationship between darkness and sleep began to change. But 100 years ago, many Americans still lived close to the rhythms that had guided humanity for countless generations. Imagine once more standing outside beneath the night sky. The stars continued their silent movement overhead. The air feels cool. The town sleeps peacefully around you. Every home is dark. Every road is quiet. The world itself seems to be resting. Take another slow breath. Allow yourself to imagine that forgotten kind of night. A night without noise. A night without screens. A night filled only with darkness, silence, and rest. Take a slow breath in and gently let it drift back out again. The night has grown deeper now. The stars have traveled higher across the sky. And throughout America, 100 years ago, millions of people have quietly drifted into sleep. Imagine yourself there. The year is somewhere around 1915. You stand once more in a small American town. The evening activities have long since ended. The stores are closed. The lamps have been extinguished. The streets, which only a few hours earlier carried the sounds of wagons and footsteps, have become completely still. A cool night breeze moves softly through the trees. The air smells faintly of wood smoke and earth. Above you, countless stars continue their silent journey across the sky. In those distant times, nighttime was not viewed as an inconvenience. It was not something to be resisted. Instead, it was accepted as a natural and necessary part of life. People understood that after a day of work came a time of rest, and when darkness arrived, the world itself seemed to encourage sleep. Imagine walking slowly along the empty road. Your footsteps echo softly against the dirt path. A lantern glows faintly beside a distant farmhouse. Beyond it, the countryside stretches into darkness. The fields rest quietly beneath the moonlight. The trees stand motionless against the horizon. Everything feels calm. Everything feels peaceful. Meanwhile, inside homes throughout America, families sleep beneath heavy blankets and handmade quilts. The fireplaces have burned low. The candles have long since been extinguished. Bedrooms remain dark except for the faint moonlight entering through the windows. Imagine stepping quietly into one of these homes. The wooden floor creaks softly beneath your feet. The house is silent. Children sleep peacefully beneath warm blankets. Parents rest after a long day of work. The only sound is the occasional settling of the house itself, a gentle creak, a soft movement of wind outside, then silence once again. In those distant times, many people experienced sleep very differently than we do today. They did not fall asleep while watching television. They did not wake during the night to check a phone. They did not spend their final moments of the day looking at bright screens. Instead, darkness itself prepared them for rest. Their bodies followed rhythms that had guided human beings for thousands of years. When darkness arrived, the brain slowly prepared for sleep. When morning light returned, the body naturally awakened. There were no alarms for many people, no schedules displayed on glowing screens, only the quiet rhythm of nature itself. Imagine lying beneath a thick quilt on a cold winter night. Outside, snow falls gently from the sky. The wind brushes softly against the windows. The room feels warm, safe, comfortable. You hear the faint crackle of dying embers inside the fireplace. Then even that sound slowly fades away. Meanwhile, outside the house, the entire world appears to be sleeping. No cars move through the roads. No airplanes pass overhead. No distant city lights glow against the horizon. Only darkness. Only stars. Only silence. As the years quietly passed throughout the 20th century, this relationship between darkness and sleep slowly began to change. Electric lights became brighter, cities became larger, technology became more powerful. The night itself gradually became busier, and little by little, humanity's oldest relationship with darkness and rest began to fade. Yet perhaps something important remained behind. A memory, a reminder that sleep was once not something people struggled to achieve. It was simply part of life, part of nature, part of being human. Imagine yourself standing one final time beneath the night sky of America 100 years ago. The stars shine softly above you, the air feels cool and peaceful. The town sleeps quietly around you. A distant church steeple rises against the darkness. A farmhouse lantern flickers faintly on the horizon. Everything feels still. Everything feels calm. Take one final slow breath. The streets remain empty. The stars continue their endless journey. And somewhere, deep within the quiet darkness of the past, another peaceful American night slowly drifts into tomorrow. Our gentle journey through the forgotten history of sleep has come to an end. And now, just like the people who lived 100 years ago, it may finally be time for us to rest.